So now we're going to talk about how to use diagrams to test for validity. So we're going to look at a statement. Consider the statement: all integers are rational numbers. Now remember that this is a universal statement. It's universal because of the word all appearing here. So we could write this formally. And how would we write this statement formally? With symbols. So it would be universal quantifier for all in every integer. For every integer, it's a rational number. So n would have to be an element of the rational numbers, which we use Q for rational numbers. And so what we can do is we can represent this statement with a diagram. So I'll say the truth of this statement is represented by the following diagram. So we're going to use a circle that represents the set of integers. So imagine that every integer is inside of this circle. Well, all of the integers are rational numbers, so they're contained inside of a bigger circle that represents rational numbers. So again, these circles are kind of like the entire set. Imagine that the entire set of integers would have to be fully contained within the set of rational numbers. So we can use these diagrams to test for the validity of an argument. So to test for validity using diagrams, what you do is you represent the premises in your argument with diagrams. So for each premise, you're going to make a diagram like that, and you're going to analyze the diagrams to see whether they represent the truth of the conclusion as well. So we're going to look at a couple examples. Here's going to be our first example. So we're going to revisit one that we've talked about before. All human beings are mortal. Zeus is not mortal. Therefore, Zeus is not a human. And we previously said that this argument was valid. So let's see if we can use diagrams to represent these. So this first premise, it's called the major premise. And we're going to make a diagram to represent that. So all human beings are mortal. So if I draw a picture of that, it would have two circles, one inside of the other. And on the outside would be mortals. And the inside would be human beings. Because all human beings are mortals. So the human being circle would have to be inside of the mortal circle. So again, this is the major premise. Drew a picture diagram for that one. So then we're going to look at our other premises, which we only have one. Any of the other ones are called minor premises. So there's only one. and we're going to make a diagram to represent this. So Zeus is not mortal. So I have the mortal circle, and Zeus is outside of that circle because Zeus is not mortal. And when you're talking about one particular object, so in this case Zeus, you use a dot to represent one object. So here's Zeus. Zeus is outside of the mortal circle. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take these two diagrams and you're going to combine them. Into one picture. So essentially, like, imagine you trace the second picture and you move it over to the first picture. And so what will you get if you combine them? You'll get our two circles with human beings, mortals, and then Zeus outside of the mortal circle. So I've combined them into one, and now we're going to use this picture here to see if our conclusion is true. So the conclusion said Zeus is not a human. So if I look at this picture here, does this show that Zeus is not a human? Well, Zeus is outside of the human being circle. So Zeus is not a human. So from here I can conclude the argument is valid.